This video is for our grade 11 learners that do CAT and are busy with their PAT or practical assessment task. We have a video that will have discussed the topic for your year. Just go find the one that relates to the year that you are doing your grade 11 PAT. And then we already have uploaded our videos that discuss the phase 1 and how to complete that and how to complete the phase 2. So this video we're going to discuss the phase 3, and it is important to take note is that you cannot actually do this phase until you have successfully completed your phase 1 and phase 2, because we are going to require the information from those phases in order to complete this. Now in grade 11, the big difference between grade 11 and grade 12 with regards to the phase 3 is that in grade 12 you need to first create a report which has a summary of all your information and your findings in that, or to basically update the report that you started in phase 1, and then you present that information in a website. In grade 11 you do not need to do the report. You've already completed everything you need to do for the report for your phase 1, and you've added some information from phase 2. You do not need to go back to that report. However, we do need that information to present it, and we need to add some new information to a website. So let's go look at the website. It is very similar to what you are going to do in grade 12. So I'm going to be referring to a lot of grade 12 videos that you can watch just to get an idea. Remember, we really want to use the grade 11 PAT to not only get top marks, but we also want to use it to give us experience and an idea of what to expect in grade 12. So that when next year comes for you grade 11s, the only thing that's really new in the phase 3 is the report. But you'll be confident in how to do your website because everything is pretty much the same. So let's have a look at the instructions. Task 13, they're asking us to create a website. So we can create a website with a home page and 2 other pages at least. And this is going to be in our phase 3 folder. And the key thing is we want to show off all the HTML tags that we've learned this year. They say consult the HTML tag sheet that you use in class. If you have been taught HTML, you might have a tag sheet, which is a summary of all the tag sheets. If you don't, then you can go and find any old exam paper, particularly a grade 12 prac paper. I've got one over here, the 2024 November paper. And if you go right to the back to one of the last few pages, you'll see there's a tag sheet that you can use in a prac exam, but you can use this as well to help you make sure that you get all of these tags in your website. So there are the basic tags that you should know. There are text tags for our headings and that. We want to create hyperlinks. We definitely need those. Our paragraph and formatting tags. And then over here, some more formatting tags with regard to lists and images and horizontal rules. In grade 12, you will learn about tables. So you don't need to use this. However, they do mention in the grade 11 PAT that you should use tags that you haven't been taught before. So maybe you want to go look at how tables work just to get an idea, and that can help you get some of those marks. Make sure that you use this and go through this and make sure that you show off everything. If you haven't used a list, use the list tags. If you haven't used an image, put in an image. If you haven't used a horizontal rule, put one in. Make sure that you use as many of these tags as possible in a professional way. Don't just put them in for the sake of it. Make sure that you put them in so that it adds to the layout and the look and the feel of the website. Now let's go back here. We are given quite specific instructions about what must be on each individual page. So we've got a home page which has your topic, your focus question and focus area, an abstract, and a full navigation system that goes towards the second page and to the third page and back again. Now you can basically take all that information from your report document. You would have filled in your phase 1, your focus question, and information from your task definition. So take that information to your homepage and then format it in a really nice way. So you can make a really nice homepage with that. Our second page needs good quality and factual correct information from your planning and summary document about the topic. The information should be well structured using the website design features, and you need to have at least 3 appropriate facts and findings or graphs or results based on your information. And the information must be grouped together in appropriate headings, and you must reference where you got this information from with appropriate hyperlinks. Now this is probably going to be your most difficult page to do, but it is very easy to do if you've got your information. So where are we getting this information? So do you remember in your phase 1 doing these 10 questions? Remember we had to do the categories and the question and the levels and where we got that information from, and then a summary of that information. They even gave us some questions to use. Do you remember you had to choose 8 and have 2 of your own? That information, particularly the summary of those questions, is what you're going to use as the information in your page 2. That's going to be your research information. Remember, they said you must group the information together. You can group it according to categories. And then you need to discuss 3 findings. Now, where do I get that from? Well, that's going to come from your spreadsheet. Remember, you did an analysis, you did at least 2 graphs, you did some calculations. You're going to be using those graphs and your formulas in that to get some information. You might even need to get information from your database queries that you did. So this is where you're going to get the information for your findings and talk about information. So that's where you are getting the information from. So your research is coming from your 10 questions from the summary part, and then your findings, your 3 findings will come from your spreadsheet and your database, particularly from your spreadsheet about what you found out about people's opinions and things like that. So you're going to compile all that information together into the second page. Remember, you want to group the information together. So maybe you want to look at your categories or summary from your 10 questions and make them separate headings, and then put the summary section under the appropriate headings, making sure that they flow together. And then if your findings fall under any of those categories, you can include the findings there. But I would suggest labeling it clearly. Say finding number 1, finding number 2, so that it's clear that you've got 3 findings. If your findings don't really fit under the appropriate headings or groupings, then you can create a new heading called findings and then discuss your 3 findings there. But make sure that you show the charts, make sure that you discuss the charts. That's probably going to be your most difficult part. And then you must reference the information, particularly in your summary section of your 10 questions, of where you found that information on the internet. You need to reference it correctly. And then our third page is going to be to create a web page to advertise your online sales service or courier service. So it's just basically an advert page. You can have a logo and offer your services and things like that. So it's a little advert page. So make sure everything's laid out nicely. Make sure you've got consistent look and feel, that your pages all feel like they're part of the same website. Make sure that you've got relevant images and that you've referenced those images. Make sure that there's no spelling mistakes, and use some tags that are not in the grade 11 curriculum. I'll give you some tips for that now. So how do we start all of this? As I said, this is very similar to grade 12. So if you go to my YouTube channel at Mr. Long IT and Cat, and we go to the playlists, you can either go to the Cat Pat playlist. If you scroll all the way down, you might find it over here for the Cat Pat tips and hints. So it could be that one. But the easier way to find things is just to look for the Cat Pat Phase 3 guide. That's the one that you want. That is, however, for grade 12. So I'm going to show you which videos to particularly refer to. So if I go to the Cat Pat Phase 3 guide, you'll get a whole bunch of videos that talk about the report setup. These ones over here are all about the report, which you are not doing in the phase 3 of grade 11. You are going straight to the website. So you can skip those for now and jump all the way to these videos over here. So here is a video that's going to tell you how to lay out your website. Now in this video, I explain how to get your navigation structure. I even show you how to use tables. So already there we can show off tags that we haven't learned in grade 11. So I would use this as a guide to design the layout of your web page. Now the key tip when designing your website is to work on one page on your home page and get it perfect. Get it exactly the way you want it to look. Get the navigation structure laid out correctly, even though you don't have the other pages of the website yet, but lay it out as if you did. Make sure you've got the colors that you want, the look and the feel. Make sure everything is perfect, because it's very easy once your home page is done to copy that page and then adapt it to become your second page, and then copy it again to adapt it to become your third page. And in that way, your navigation structure will be consistent, your color scheme will be consistent, your layout will be consistent. That's a good way to get those consistency marks. So this is the video to start off with your website. Remember, in your PAT folder, you are going to go to your phase 3 folder. Inside your website folder, here is where you're going to save your home page, your second page, and your third page, as well as any other images that you use in the website. Remember, the images must be in the same folder as your HTML files. So this video is very important in order to complete your website. In our previous video about the phase 2, we did mention that those charts that we did in our spreadsheet we want to use in a website coming up. And I did mention about how to convert your charts into images. So if I click on this video, Here is a video, a very quick one that will show you how to convert those images if you haven't done them already. It's a way to make sure that you save your charts as images because we want to display those images in our website so that we can refer to them in our findings. So this is also another step that you're going to need to do. And then here are some general website tips that you can add to ensure that you get all the marks. As I mentioned, you need to also show off tags that you have not learned in grade 11. You will have already done that if you've used tables. If you want information about how to use tables, you can go back to the YouTube channel and search for the HTML playlists. If I scroll down, you can see here is my HTML web design playlist. And in this, if you scroll all the way down, you will see here's an introduction to tables and table attributes if you want to use tables. But if you used the website layout video, you would have probably seen how to use it already and use that correctly there. But also just a reminder while we are here, if you are needing to use images on that and you need a recap, don't forget that we have all of these videos over here about the attributes, about how to change the fonts, the line breaks, the images. So if you need a refresher, don't forget about our HTML web page design playlist. So there are some general tips, but if you want to add other tags, I've also got a video over here which are special tags for your PAT. And in this video, I mentioned quite a few tags that aren't even in the grade 12 syllabus. So the marquee, the del, the mark, and the iframe. So there are some tags there if you want to watch this video just to get some other tags that you might want to include. So this is very valuable as well. And then I've got this video, which is just general tips, which is also very useful for your phase 3, which I would apply. Now, as I said, the most difficult part of your website is this findings and summary information, how you present it. Now, in grade 12, you do this in your report, and then you take that information to your website. So that's why when I go to this playlist over here, I'm actually going to suggest that you come over here to these two videos, your discussion and analysis and report findings. Now in these videos, I discuss how to take the summary information and write about it and how to determine findings based on your reports and your charts and that. I know this is referring to the report. However, the data, the information that you would have written down in these videos in the report is actually the data and information you're going to write down in your website. So if you are struggling to determine what to put in for these findings and for the relevant information and stuff like that, then those two videos, the discussion analysis and the report findings, are going to be the ones that explain to you how to take your summary information and compile it together, and how to take your report findings and how to generate findings based on the information from your spreadsheet. I would strongly suggest actually doing this in a Word document. Spend some time, open up a Word document, take your summary information from your 10 questions, take your reports, diagrams, put them together, and try group it all together, lay it out, see how it flows, generate what the content's going to look like, and then you can take that content and literally copy it into your second page. Also doing your referencing, making sure that you've got hyperlinks to where you got that information. So put a hyperlink to the sources. If you remember with your 10 questions, you also got where you got that answer from. For example, the biographical information, which was the website source. So you want to make a hyperlink to that particular source where you got that answer from so that you can refer to it. This is particularly for your summary section. And then the third page is going to just be an advert for your service, your online sales service or career service. We'll look at the rubric to see how we get those marks. So let's go look at the rubric for that. If you've just got a home page, a second page, a third page, and they all open correctly, there are areas you're going to get a guaranteed 4 marks straight away. But in your home page, you want to make sure that you've got all of these things. Make sure you've ticked off. I've got the topic, I've got the focus question, focus area. I provide an extract and I indicate the procedures of the investigation. Make sure that you've used your task definition and focus question to make sure you've put all that information in the home page. On your second page, have at least 3 findings. So make sure that you've discussed 3 findings, make sure that it's clearly labeled so we can identify that there are 3 findings. And those findings should hopefully be focusing on your focus question. When we did our phase 2, I did say that your charts must provide you information that relates to your focus question. All your information is linked to sources and cited correctly, that you said, I got this information from this website and so on. And make sure that your graphics have captions, especially your charts. Make sure that you explain what that graphic is about. My video with the cat pat tips for the website explains how you can do those captions quite nicely. So make sure that you watch it in here. Then if we go to our third page, we want to make sure that you've got a title and a logo. You've got a brief description of your business, maybe some social media contact details and suitable graphics and pictures. So this is what you're going to need for your third page. Make sure that you've ticked off all of those things. I'm not sure if they want you to make sure that you've gone to an actual company. So if you really want to be fancy, you could create a fake Instagram account or something like that where you can link to it, or the details will be easy. You can make fake details for that. But if you're going to link to a social media account, there are marks will be deducted for brokening. So it needs to be something that's valid. Be careful of that. You don't want to make sure that there's a link that goes to something that doesn't exist. But use suitable graphics. Use your ideas of creating logos. So go create a cool logo for your business. There are lots of cool websites that can do that for you, like Canva. You can even design it in PowerPoint and then save it as a picture as well. Do that for your sales service company or your courier delivery service. And then here are the overall website marks. Are your pages consistent in the background color? So you're using the same color scheme throughout, using the same backgrounds and fonts throughout. Your font sizes are appropriate. There's good use of white space. You don't fill up everything, but you don't have big areas where there's no content. It must be well designed. Go look at websites that are well designed to get some ideas. Is everything organized and readable? So put in labels and headings so that we can clearly see how information is grouped together. That your website has, for example, like a top part, like the header part, which is the title of the website. Maybe there's a part at the bottom, which is a summary part, something like that. Making use of horizontal lines to break up the different sections. Using paragraphs and lists to structure the information. Make sure that you are showing off all your skills over here. Your images, make sure that they are appropriate, that there are no broken images. In other words, all the images are displaying correctly. And that is easy to do as long as your images are in the same folder as your HTML files. Make sure that you include an alt tag for all your images because there are marks for that. And that you've appropriately cropped and sized them so that the images are appropriately sized for the page. Your hyperlinks, make sure that you've got a navigation structure. If you watch that first video, it will show you exactly how to lay that out so that you get all those marks easily. Make sure that your hyperlinks have meaningful descriptive text. You're going to also have hyperlinks to other things. For example, your references, make sure that they work, that everything's consistent, that everything's laid out nicely, that there's no dead links that they go to the pages that don't exist. So test out all your links. Go back and forth between your pages to make sure that your navigation structure works correctly. And here's the quality of your information. This is going to be your summary information and your layout of that. So make sure that you have displayed that information, that you've given hyperlinks to where that information is from, that you've used good language in it. So this is particularly the summary information. And then referencing, make sure that your graphics are clearly acknowledged, especially the images that you get from elsewhere. So your charts, obviously, you get from yourself, but other images that you might use, you must reference it. And in my video on the CatPat tips for the website, I do mention how to reference images there as well. So make sure that you do that. And then here are tags. You need at least 2 that you did not get taught in grade 11. So that's either going to be your table tags or the tags that you use from this special tags video, or there could be something else that you've maybe learned. But here's the key one that will help you with that to get those 4 marks. And then the overall information, you're going to make sure that your work is handed in on time. Make sure that you show commitment and that all your files are there and your folder structure is easy to navigate. Now, speaking about this is actually refers to the next task, which is task 14. Once you've done your website, you need to make sure of the following. Make sure that you've gone through everything. Make sure you go through the rubric and make sure you've marked everything to make sure that you've got everything. You don't want to leave anything out. You're going to submit your PAT folder to your teacher. Make sure that everything is in the different phase folders. So that all your phase 1 stuff is here. All your phase 2 stuff is in here. That there are no empty folders, that they've got the content that they need, and that they are appropriately named. Make sure that everything is in its right place. Make sure that there are good names. And then you must fill out your final declaration of authenticity. Now, you copied that. Hopefully, if you've been following the video series, you would have done that in your phase 1. So if I scroll all the way to the bottom, I told you to copy this from your phase 1 video. If you haven't done that, then go back to your phase 1 video and make sure that you get this. I've got a link of how you can get this and incorporate this into your planning and summary document. And then make sure that you fill this out. Make sure that you tick on the blocks, fill out information of where you got help, and then maybe just write your name. Or you could use a program to go and create a digital signature or an image of your signature and go and paste that over there as well to make it look nice and digital. Or your teacher might want you to print this and then you actually sign it. So double check with your teacher how they want you to hand in your declaration of authenticity. I like digital ones because that saves us paper, but your teacher will tell you how they want that to be handed in. And then you hand in everything. If there's any hard copy evidence, for example, your forms were filled in manually on paper, or your final declaration of authenticity needs to be handed in a hard copy, then you obviously give this to your teacher as well. And then that's actually the end of your PAT. Then you would have done everything, and that's all there is to the PAT. And so hopefully by doing that, you'll get all the marks. So just to recap, phase 3, we need a website with 3 pages. So I would strongly suggest going to the YouTube channel to playlist and look for the CAT PAT phase 3 guide. I would suggest looking at these videos over here, the layout, converting your charts into images, some general tips, some special tags, and some more tips as well. Those videos are going to be essential for you to be able to complete your phase 3. But also for your second page, don't forget about these 2 videos, the discussion analysis and the report findings. They're going to help you to generate the content that you're going to want to display in your page 2 of your website. So all the videos are there, grade 11s. You just have to watch them, take note of them, and complete the phase 3. And remember, we are not only trying to get a really good mark in grade 11, but we are practicing for what is to come in grade 12. If you do this successfully, you'll be super prepared for next year, for your grade 12 PAT. And that's important because remember, in grade 12, when you are doing your phase 3, that's when all the busyness of the end of your matric career is on, all those big events that happen in the 3rd term. The more you do now, the better prepared you are next year, the easier it will be to complete your phase 3 in grade 12. So really put a lot of effort into this, get some experience, learn how to do everything, and get top marks for that phase 3. Good luck, grade 11s. Remember, all the videos we discussed are on the YouTube channel at Mr. Long IT and CAT. Make sure that you subscribe to it so that you don't miss whenever we post new videos in case things change. So make sure that you subscribe. Also on TikTok at Mr. Long Education. And remember, don't do it the long way, do it the Mr. Long way.